Verses 9 and 10 of the Dhammapada were spoken when the Blessed One was residing at Jetavana on the occasion of Devadatta's golden robe ordination ceremony at Rajagaha. At that time, 2 disciples of the Buddha, each leading 500 bhikkhus, took leave of the Blessed One and traveled from Jetavana to Rajagaha. The people of Rajagaha, gathering in groups of 2 or 3, or even larger numbers, made offerings in accordance with the customary ritual of almsgiving to visiting monks. One day, the Venerable Sariputta, while dedicating the merit, said, "Householders, there is a person who gives alms himself, but does not encourage others to give. Such a person receives the karmic result of wealth for many successive lives, but does not obtain the blessing of relatives and family connections. Another person encourages his neighbors to give alms, but does not give himself. Such a person gains the blessing of relatives and family connections over many lives, but does not obtain the blessing of material wealth. Another person neither gives himself nor encourages others to give over many successive lives. Such a person lacks sufficient food and drink, and furthermore, lives in loneliness and deprivation. Again, there is a person who both gives alms himself and encourages others to give. Such a person, over many successive lives, over hundreds of lives, thousands of lives, even hundreds of thousands of lives obtains both the blessing of material wealth and the blessing of many relatives and family connections. Thus did the Venerable Sariputta expound the Dhamma. A wise man, having heard this discourse, reflected to himself, "Venerable Sir, this teaching is truly marvelous. It explains the meaning of happiness. I should create merit toward these 2 enlightened ones." Thereupon, he invited the elder to partake of a meal and said, "Venerable Sir, please allow me to render service and make offerings tomorrow." Householder, how many bhikkhus are you inviting? Venerable Sir, how many bhikkhus are there in your retinue? 1,000 bhikkhus. Householder, please bring your entire community of bhikkhus tomorrow and allow me to render service and make offerings. The Venerable One consented. Thereupon, the householder went throughout the streets, exhorting others to make offerings. "Good sirs and good ladies, I have invited 1,000 bhikkhus. How many bhikkhus are you able to provide food for? According to your means." The townspeople pledged offerings according to their capacity, saying, "We shall provide for 10 bhikkhus. We shall provide for the 20 bhikkhus. We shall provide for 100 bhikkhus." The householder instructed them to bring the provisions to one place and said, "Let us gather the food in one place and cook together, all of you. Please bring sesame seeds, rice, butter, liquid milk, honey, and other provisions." At that time, a certain householder offered a scented golden robe worth 100,000 coins, saying, "If the combined food offerings are insufficient, sell this robe and use the money to make up what is lacking. If the food is sufficient, you may offer this robe to whichever bhikkhu you deem appropriate." The collected food offerings proved fully sufficient according to the donor's intention, with nothing lacking. Therefore, the householder said to the assembled men, "Good sirs, this golden robe was offered by a householder for the purpose just described, and it now remains unused. To whom should we offer it?" Some said, "We should offer it to the elder Sariputta." Others replied, "The elder Sariputta comes and goes only when the harvest has been completed, but Devadatta comes among us frequently, both in times of harvest and in ordinary times, and is always available. Like a water jar, let us offer it to him." After a prolonged discussion, the faction with the greater number exceeding the other by 4 persons decided to offer the robe to Devadatta. Thereupon, they presented it to Devadatta. Devadatta cut the robe into 2 pieces sewed and dyed them, making one part into an upper robe and the other into a lower robe. Then he wore the robe when he went out. When the people saw him wearing the new robe, they again spoke among themselves, "This robe is not suitable for Devadatta. It is suitable for the venerable Sariputta. Devadatta has donned an upper and lower robe that is not fitting for him." At that time, a bhikkhu from a distant region traveled from Rajagaha to Savatthi. He approached the Blessed One, paid homage, and expressed his joy at seeing him. The Blessed One asked him about the well-being of the two chief disciples. The bhikkhu then related to him the entire account of the robe, from beginning to end. The Blessed One said, "Bhikkhus, this is not the first time that Devadatta has worn a robe that was not fitting for him. In a former existence as well, he wore a robe that was not suitable." Having spoken thus, he then related the following story. Once in the past, when King Brahmadatta was ruling at Varanasi, there was an elephant hunter who made his living by killing elephants and selling their tusks, nails, entrails, and flesh in the market. At that time, in a certain forest, there were thousands of elephants grazing. One day, as they entered the forest, they encountered several Pachekabuddhas. From that day onward, both when going and when returning, they would kneel before the Pachekabuddhas, and only then proceed on their way. Seeing the conduct of the herd of elephants, the hunter was puzzled and thought, "Killing these animals is truly difficult. Every time they come and go, they pay homage to the Pachekabuddhas. What is it that they see and pay homage to?" Coming to the conclusion that it must be because of the golden robe, he decided, "I, too, must immediately don a golden robe." He then went to the pond where the Pachekabuddha regularly came. While the Pachekabuddha was bathing, leaving his robe on the bank, the hunter stole the robe. Then he went hunting, sat waiting on the path where the herd of elephants usually passed, holding a spear in his hand and covering his head with the robe. When the elephants saw him, thinking him to be a Pachekabuddha, they stopped, paid homage to him, and proceeded on their way. The last elephant to come forward and pay homage, the leader of the herd, was killed with a single thrust of the spear. After taking the pair of tusks and other valuable parts and burying the remaining carcass in the ground, the hunter departed. Not long afterward, the Bodhisatta was reborn as an elephant and later became the leader of that herd. At that time, the hunter continued his former stratagem. Seeing that the number of elephants in the herd had diminished, the Elephant King asked, "Where have the elephants gone? Our herd has become far too small." "They do not know, sire," they replied. The Elephant King reflected, "They cannot have gone anywhere without my permission." Then suspicion arose in his mind. That fellow sitting in that place with a robe covering his head must be the cause of this disorder. I must keep watch on him. Then the leader of the herd allowed the other elephants to go ahead, while he himself followed last, moving very slowly. When the last elephants had finished paying homage and passed by, the hunter saw the Elephant King approaching. Immediately, he wrapped up the robe and hurled his spear. The Elephant King, being on guard as he drew near, stepped back and avoided the spear point, realizing at once that this was the one who had killed his elephants. The Elephant King charged forward to seize him, but the hunter swiftly leapt aside and hid behind a tree. The Elephant King intended to use his trunk to wrap both the hunter and the tree together, seize him, and dash him to the ground. At that very moment, the hunter, quick-witted, held out the golden robe for the elephant to see. Seeing the robe, the elephant halted, hesitating, and thought, "If I attack this man, the reverence that thousands of Buddhas, Pachekabuddhas, and Arahants have shown toward me will surely be lost." Restraining himself, the elephant asked the hunter, "Is it you who have killed all those relatives of mine?" The hunter replied, "Yes, sire. Why have you acted so wickedly?" You have donned a robe meant for those who have abandoned sensual desire, yet it is not fitting for you. In doing so, you have committed a grave offense. Having spoken thus, the elephant reproached him once more, reciting these verses: He who wears the yellow robe, while the mind is still stained, lacking self-restraint and truth, is not worthy of the yellow robe. But he who has cast off all stains, well established in moral discipline, self-restrained, and living in truth, is truly worthy of the yellow robe. Then the elephant said, You have acted in a manner unworthy. Thus spoke the elephant. When the teacher concluded this instruction, he identified the characters in the Jataka story as follows. The hunter at that time was Devadatta. The elephant king who reproached him was I myself, Bhikkhus. This is not the first time that Devadatta has worn a robe that was not fitting for him. He did so in a former life as well. Having spoken thus, he then recited verses 9 and 10 of the Dhammapada. He who wears the yellow robe, while the mind has not cast off defilements, lacking self-restraint and truthfulness, is not worthy of the yellow robe. But he who has abandoned defilements is well established in moral discipline, self-restrained, and living in truth, is truly worthy of the yellow robe. There are things in this world which, if seen only with the eyes, are very easy to mistake. A robe may look the same, a title may sound the same, but the true worth of a person has never resided in outward form. This story is not about the golden robe. It is about worthiness. Worthiness does not come from wearing something noble, but from living in accordance with that nobility each day. No one becomes pure simply by wearing the robe of a renunciant, and no one becomes worthy of respect merely because they are acknowledged by the many. What shapes true character is not the gaze of others, but the quiet choices made when no one is watching. And perhaps the deepest lesson of this story is this: before asking, what do I possess? One should ask, am I worthy of it? For on the long path of human life, appearances may deceive the world, but karma is never mistaken. Thank you for staying with me today. And if this story has touched you, stay with the channel so that together we may continue listening to more meaningful and thoughtful stories.